Welcome to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. We reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work in a sea of fads. We explore the physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who've conquered life's health challenges. Are you ready to unlock your potential to live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody. You are watching the Health Revolution, and we are so excited that you are joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and I got to tell you, this is going to be a great episode. First, of course, no matter which way you're tuning into us, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. In addition, at the bottom of your screen, there is a tab for show episode notes. Please remember that. And of course, there's information to reference today's episode. And so as we are getting into it, we know that authentic living and having that optimal life means we're covering all things optimal physical activity, the emotional resilience, and the mental mastery. So in a world where mental health is not only just a buzz phrase, but it really truly is the type of living we seek to achieve. What does it mean to achieve that on a positive note when life is lifing? And so my guest today is someone who is well-versed in tackling this, who has served many. He is an author, but first we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. Watch this. Meet Pat Broe, a sales and marketing professional whose journey to success was shaped by profound personal struggles with anxiety, depression, and a near-death experience. These challenges fueled his passion for guiding others toward authentic living. Pat's raw storytelling and practical advice empower individuals to navigate the unique mental health threats of modern life. With a diverse background in radio hosting and business consulting, Pat offers a powerful roadmap for cultivating a happier, more fulfilling life. He wrote the book, The Real Confident You, and today we will be talking about what it takes to have positive mental health in all the fixings of a modern world. Pat Broe, welcome to the show. How are you?
How are you? Thank you so much for having me today.
I'm excited about this because we can't get enough of really embracing mental health and all that that implies. And, you know, with you, the type of background that you have, I'm curious, you know, your definition of what it means to have positive mental health in a world where we've got to lean forward and literally put one foot in front of the other for success. Where did all of that start for you as your basis?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, unlike, and actually like what a lot of people are seeing right now, it started at kind of a rock bottom point. So I was a young teen who had moved around the country and was really struggling with my own identity. Despite my bald head, I'm 26 years old. So I'm in Gen Z, believe it or not. I was living a life of completely not knowing who I was, what I wanted to do with my life, living without purpose. And that all led to, a panic attack disorder, really large bouts with depression, and eventually me ending up trying to take my own life at 16 years old. And the tragedy of that was actually ended up being a wake-up call for my life. And from then on, for the next half decade of my life, I went on this kind of spiritual journey of just trying to figure out who I was. And through that, a lot like you dispel in this show about the physical body, right? Through the mental body, there's a lot of charlatans out there. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen selling a lot of garbage. But through that mist, I was able to find who I was, who I wanted to be, and was able to find that North Star and the things that I could do to prevent kind of the life I was living and the person I was, to be a happy, successful, well-lived person who was living the most authentic version of myself and was succeeding at it and found ways to make it nourish my own life. So when I turned 22, I released an article that actually ended up going viral about my story and about who I was. And every person I'd ever met in my life, thankfully, I was a military brat. I moved around my whole life. So I had kids from Bakersfield to Brooklyn reaching out to me saying, hey, I have this problem too. And we all have seen the stats, but it becomes a lot more real when people are actually interacting with you that you've met before or not met before. A lot I hadn't met before. And the thing I thought I had left out of the story and the thing that people were asking for was, how did you get better? And so I wrote this book to really dispel how did I get better? And that's what I'm going around the world talking about now.
You're obviously you are younger, and I love how you're using wise words to really reflect and describe your backstory. Did you have the foundation when you were younger? I know you mentioned that you were a military brat and that
Yeah.
there was a lot of movement going on. What did that look like for you? Did you have that grounding?
Yeah.
Was your family uh, embracing what it meant to live as optimally as possible given the circumstances?
Yeah, I have the greatest family on planet Earth. I'm really, really lucky. I think what the military background did is allowed me to work really hard against the goals that I ended up having to set to get better. When you have a dad that literally wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning and puts actual bootstraps on, we say that phrase a lot, but they're actual bootstraps, and goes to work in camouflage or is off in Somalia or, in the worst places that you could possibly think of. It puts the perspective of work as a lot easier for you. So in working on myself, it made that part easier. And also a lot of the things that we are all missing in our daily life are just innately true that we probably learned in childhood that we've been missing for a long time. And so I have wonderful parents who are really supportive, and I'm really appreciative that they were there, because otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Did you see the signs looking back? Were there signs that you could have taken action, being that you obviously you are a man of wise words?
Yeah.
Was there signs looking back that things were just going on a different road that was going to be challenging for you as you were growing through and then becoming a young adult?
Yeah, I mean, I knew something was probably wrong from the time I probably turned 10 years old. I should have asked for help sooner. I mean, that's the truth of the story. And, but to be honest, it takes a lot of people a lot of work to get to the point to ask for help, right? That's a pretty brave thing to do. To get to that level of bravery, there's a lot of work that needs to be done on yourself before you even get there. And especially for, a 15-year-old or a 40-year-old or an 80-year-old, to ask for help is a hard thing. It's a hard thing for all of us. And so I should have asked for help sooner. I mean, I think the signs really were, if you really look back at it, right, it's the up and down of the mood. It's all the classic symptoms, right? It's the up and down of the mood. It's the oversleeping. It's the inability to focus for long periods of time. Obviously, panic attacks. I was having like 12 a day at one point. The
12
deep
days.
anxieties.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. It's an aggressive amount for sure. It's a pretty high amount.
What would you attribute all of that to? Was it just because you were moving around a lot, or just was there anything that
Yeah.
looking back that just was a huge factor for you?
Yeah, I think the problem with me was the problem that exists with everybody now. There's too much input. I was overstimulated, right? I think I had similar challenges that a lot of different people could look at in their childhood as saying they're having, feeling out of place, feeling in a different time, whatever it was. Everybody can relate to that, right? Everybody didn't sit at the lunch table they wanted to every day, right? Everybody can kind of relate to that. The problem is it constantly being thrown in your face over and over and over again on social media, right? You go home, and what's supposed to be a safe space now, the thing that you go to relieve stress is actually causing more stress, right? And you can never really escape it, and you get kind of caught in a loop of it, right? And so I think my story would have been in 1982 would have been a kid has some troubles, and by 1987 I'm me, right? But I think in our modern context, it took a lot more steps to get into a normal state.
You talk about stimulation. Can you share more about that? What were some things that you just went through personally that are just part of everyday life that maybe we don't realize is overstimulation?
Yeah, well, there's a lot, right? If you think about how often we're using our cell phones, there is no time to give your mind a rest or to really think through things. We use our phones as an avoidance mechanism for almost every emotion we're feeling. But what ends up happening is those emotions just build up over time until they eventually boil over, right? If you're standing in line in Starbucks and you can't help but pull the phone out of your pocket and stare at it, you're overstimulated, right? addicted to the dopamine hits you can get constantly. If you can't hold a conversation without thinking about what's going on your phone, if you can't watch an episode of television like this, like if you're watching this episode of TV right now and you have your phone out and you're looking at Instagram and you're listening to me in the background, you might have a little bit of a stimulation problem, right? Which I think probably 50% of I work in the marketing world, right? We call it first screen, second screen, because most people are looking at the cell phone and then they're looking at the TV. The TV is the second screen. If you need two screens to fill up your stimulation zone, you're overstimulated.
So when did that start? Because in marketing, obviously, you study human behavior to a degree. So you understand that connection that allows people to draw in to different items, elements in the environment. Where would you peg, where are we taking a wrong turn, or where did we take a wrong turn to where now it's an issue?
Yeah, if you look at the invention of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and you look at mental health causes, Jonathan Haidt did wonderful work on this. We see sharp increases in depression, anxiety, all sorts of mental health issues just skyrocket. I mean, it literally is 2011, these apps are invented, and then you just see the graphs explode like the S&P 500. And so it is the number one key contributing factor, but it's not the only one, right? I mean, we can look at the processed foods that are causing these problems. We can look at, it's a constellation of issues all involved in kind of a modern context in which we're living in that we could get into the detail on most of them. But I think social media is really the beginning of that curve.
And so looking back, how often were you on social media? When were you on it from the very beginning? And that were there just no parameters in place just because maybe there weren't any dangers that were identified by your family? Or what did that look like?
Yeah, it was 2012. No one knew any better, really, right? No one knew that it was dangerous. The CEO of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, called Meta, the company that owns Facebook and Instagram, a cigarette company. And he got basically labeled as a class traitor for it. But it's true, but no one knew the dangers of it in 2012, right? We were just like, oh, we're putting up hashtags and really grainy photos with weird, things in the background. We didn't think of the long-term effects of a lot of these things. And so, no, my parents didn't put any parameters, nor did any parent, and nor are most parents right now. Because it's just like any teenager, I was glued to my phone, right? Our main communication method was Snapchat. So I was taking 400 pictures of myself a day. How vain is that? But that's what we all did. That's what we all still do.
And, one thing that's come up in conversation for me with other people is just how of a decline we are as a society to be able to communicate with one another. So, when you look at the example of people preferring texting versus picking up the phone to call, or where there's some sort of disagreement or argument, and then just being able to sort it out is just not something that we're seeing like in ideal situations these days. How would you attribute just that correlation with communicating needs, and then just the introduction of the advancement of technology such as these apps? What's your input on that?
That's an interesting dichotomy to draw. I mean, it's certainly a factor, right? I think anybody my age has serious trouble communicating with strangers. Luckily, I don't, again, through the process that I've gone through, but I definitely did at the time. And I think the avoidance mechanisms, again, that we go back to keep us from building up those tolerances, right? If you are living in 1997, you have to talk to everybody to get things right. You have to ask for directions. You have to go to the grocery store and talk to the people in the grocery store aisle and put the things in the car and take it home and get directions home. And now you can sit on your phone and you can plug in what you want from Instacart and it comes to your door and you don't even see the person there. It's a shadow person dropping things off at your door. You've never met them before in your life. And you open your door and the magical bags have appeared, right? And so there's all these like mini micro conversations that we build an ability from that we're losing on, right? And those are hundreds of conversations a day if you start to add it up. So I'm sure it was part of the problem of not being able to express what I wanted and what I needed.
So looking back at what you went through and just having that darker chapter of the depression and just fighting your way out of that and just getting to a place where you were improving, what were the elements specifically that helped you to rise above that? What happened to change the path that you were on back then?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost thing is living my life with intention, and setting intentionality around every single thing that I was doing, whether that's using my phone and being cognitively aware of what I'm doing, right? When I was scrolling on Instagram, it was, I'm aware of how this individual post is affecting me, and I'm not going to let it affect me in ways that I don't want it to. It was being intentional in going to class and actually hearing things out about what I wanted to do with my life. When watching TV, understanding the consumption, like when I'm consuming something, if anything, is it providing value to my life? Whether it's food, whether it's the television, whether it's media, is it providing value to my life, or is it making me more anxious, or making me more upset, or just pacifying me? Right? Is it just making me a zombie? Literally watching The Walking Dead for the 10th episode in a row. Am I a zombie? Is this providing any value in my life, or am I just a person with a pacifier in my mouth? So that was number one. Number two is actually figuring out how to destimulate. I actually opened my book with a breathing exercise that anybody can do. It's really, really easy. Navy SEALs do it, dancers do it, high-level athletes do it, and it just resetting that system. I went from 12 panic attacks today. I haven't had one in probably 8 years. And so just actually being able to physically force your body to relax and destimulate. And then the last piece of it is actually living authentically, not letting other people's influence actually guide my life. If you do something because someone else wants you to do it, they are choosing how you're going to live your life, right? So if you buy a t-shirt because someone else is going to like it, they're buying that t-shirt. If you eat a sandwich because you think someone else thinks that sandwich is cool, that's them eating the sandwich, and that's them living your life. And so actually living my own life and being intentional about how I was going to steer my own wheels was the biggest factor in my own life.
So being intentional, so that's huge. That was a decision that you made.
Yeah.
And, for viewers or for anyone watching who finds that they're stuck, how do you get to that intentional point? How do you break from the autopilot, the abyss, the trenches of what you're navigating through, the not knowing that you've had enough of where you are right now, and that you're willing to take action so that you can just get to a better place?
The best way to start is picking small things in your life and understanding what your intention is when you're going to go do them. And I mean really small things, right? Like when you go to Netflix after you turn off of this channel, which you won't go to Netflix, you'll watch the next show. But if you hypothetically went to Netflix and you went to search and find the next streaming title you're going to watch, actually think, like, what is this providing to me? What is this type? Why do I like this? What is this? What value is this giving to me? Is it going to pacify me? That's okay if it is, and that's what you want to do. Just be honest with yourself about it. When you go out to eat, are you going to buy that dinner because it makes you feel better, or are you buying it because it nourishes your body? Whatever it is, both are valid and wonderful reasons to eat, but you need to understand what that intention is in your life, right? You go into the gym, are you doing it because you want to live a long life and you want to see your kids and your grandkids live beautiful, wonderful, full, fruitful lives? That's great. Or you want to set some sort of fitness goal around your weight or whatever it is, that's fine. But you need to set the intention around what you're doing. And doing that in a micro way in many different facets of your life trains you how to do it in the macro.
And I love how it's just setting the stage of just taking those smaller steps so that you're building from there.
Right.
And so and of course, when I think about it, I always think of, one has to be in a position where they can no longer tolerate where they're at. Mm-hmm. So how can someone snap out of it?
Yeah, I think it's noticing. I think you have to start noticing things. Okay. So if you and I were driving in the car right now, let's say, did you drive to the gas station today? Where did you drive to?
I did.
You drove to the gas station. Okay. Did you go to the gas station and then home? Let's say you did you go to the gas station?
I did. I certainly did.
How many red cars did you see?
I don't believe I saw any.
You don't think you saw any? But did you see cars? Is there a possibility that there was a red car?
Yes, I did see cars. I do remember seeing a black SUV, okay, and then a darker small car, but I don't remember them. I don't remember the model.
Now, if I said to you, I'm going to pay you $1,000, for every red car you see, I want you to describe each red car to me in detail. I want you to go back to the gas station and come back. How many red cars do you see? Do you think you could tell me all the red cars you saw and what they look like, probably the model year, make, and model, and everything about them?
100%.
Okay. That's how you need to be about your life, right? I think so much of our stuff we put into the background of our life, right? 90% of our thoughts are subconscious. Most people don't like to admit it, but you're not making most of the decisions that you're making during the day, which is a great thing, right? It's a great thing that happened to us evolutionarily. And so I don't have to think I'm going to grab the water. I'm going to put water in my mouth. I'm going to put it down. I'm going to swallow. I'm going to breathe, right? You don't think about those things as you're doing them. When you first started driving, you probably freaked out and your hands were sweaty and you didn't know what to do. And now you're putting on lipstick and looking in the rearview mirror and changing the music and you don't even know what's going on the road, right? Not you. I think you're probably a wonderfully safe driver who doesn't text and drive, but the person watching, right? Nevertheless, when you start actually being intentional about finding the things you're looking for in your life, right? If you feel a deep sadness and you actually are intentional of finding the things that will make you happy in life or the things that you are grateful for, they seem to pop up a lot easier. And so setting that intention for every little thing that you do, say, if you're feeling sad, today I want to find the happy things in my life. Today I want to find the 10 things that I'm grateful for. You'll find them pretty quickly if you're looking for them. I think most of us are disillusioned with what reality really means. And if we actually looked at the facets of our life, we'd be a lot happier than we actually realized.
Very true. Very true. We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to continue right after this. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Fit Bites with Adriana. Today, let's talk about simple stress reduction techniques to help you stay calm and balanced. Life can be very hectic at times, but there are easy ways to manage stress effectively. First, try deep breathing exercises. Inhale slowly through your nose, hold for a few seconds, and exhale through your mouth. Repeat this several times to calm your mind and your body. Another great technique is practicing yoga or stretching. Now, these activities not only reduce stress, but also improve flexibility and strength. Even just a few minutes a day can make a big difference. Taking a short walk, especially in nature, can help clear your mind and reduce anxiety. Physical activity releases endorphins, which are natural mood lifters. Don't forget the power of mindfulness. Spend a few minutes each day meditating or simply sitting quietly, focusing on the present moment. Now, this can help reduce stress and improve overall well-being. Remember, managing stress is essential for maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Incorporate these simple techniques into your daily routine and feel the benefits. Stay tuned for more Fit Bites with Adriana. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back, everybody. My guest today, Pat Broe, he's author of the book, The Real Confident You, and we're talking about the intentionality, how to embrace having that positive mental health, especially in a world that we are in these days. And so, Pat, before the break, you were talking and getting into a deeper dive about setting the intentions in terms of making that initial change from the space that, say, someone is in, mentally speaking, and then just evolving from that. And what have you found has been common breakthrough practices to do that?
Yeah. And first of all, thank you, everybody, and welcome back. I would say the number one and most important thing that people can do right now, today, is be really intentional with what they're doing with their phone. I think it's the thing that's invasive in most of our lives, and it's the first thing that you can reset your relationship with that will reset your relationship with consumption as a whole, right? And it will make you rethink the way that you're living through consumptive habits as a whole. There's a couple things that you can do really quickly right now on your phone that will change your life forever. So what you can do is go to your Facebook, go to your Instagram, go to your Twitter. I know it's X now. I don't trust that Elon's not going to change it back. You can go to your TikTok, and every single one of these apps has an ability to show what you're not interested in, right? If a reel comes up, if a TikTok comes up, You can click on it. There's a functionality that says, I'm not interested in this type of content. I want you to go through the first 20 posts that are in your Instagram feed, in your Facebook feed, in your Twitter feed, in your whatever, and actually evaluate how that individual post makes you feel and what value it's providing to your life. If it's something that's just pacifying you and making the current feelings that you have, or just validating the current feelings that you have, and it's not providing value to your life, get rid of it. And just audit what you have on your phone right now. If you really are intentional about those first 20 posts, your algorithm will change forever. The second thing you can do is you can actually detox. I would suggest for everybody to start with a day. I think everybody would be surprised, even if you are the kind of person right now watching this saying, I don't use my phone that much, how much a lot means in a modern context, right? Most people use their phone somewhere around 7 or 8 hours a day. So if you're looking at that screen time notification, it says 3 hours a day, congratulations, that's still a lot. So I would say go to your phone right now and delete every single social media app you have, and see if you can make it 24 hours and see what it feels like how many times you're reaching in your pants every day for that phone to pacify you. And when we start to reset relationships like that one by one with all of our consumption habits and how we're doing everything in life, we can start to snowball effect and really see real change.
Now, what would you say to the person, the small business owner, or even the person who is representing a company who has to have those connections on social media, because social media is now a business tool to have that exponential reach to customers, for branding, for all of that? How does, and of course you being in and having a history in sales, how do you balance appropriate outreach using social media as a tool and not letting it getting out of control with regards to your mental health?
Yeah, I think we go back to that intentionality piece, right? There's a difference between consuming social media and using social media, right? When we're using it as a tool to better our lives, right? Like there was a point in my life when I was 23 years old and I was a brand new, just out of college kid at a Forbes top 5 firm. And I was cold calling CIOs and CEOs and CTOs that I was on LinkedIn all day, every day. But it wasn't affecting my mental health because all I was doing was reaching out to people, trying to sell them on software services or whatever, right? And when we're doing things that are intentional in bringing value into our lives, that's fine, right? Now, there's a conversation to be had about work-life balance, right? Which we can put on the side plate for now, because I think we could probably go another hour just talking about that. And I'm sure we both have very specific feelings about that. But nevertheless, when you take those detoxes from social media, just make it around times that you're not going to be interacting with people, right? You can schedule posts to go out on Sunday, right? You can schedule a post for 8 a.m. and noon and 3 p.m. if you're a content machine and you're pumping things out all the time. You don't have to interact with every DM all day, and you don't. And so if you want to take Sunday off and delete all the apps from your phone, just build a schedule around it, and you can do it. Pretty much everybody can do it. Don't use it as an excuse for yourself. And also don't use it as an excuse to take away from your business, right? If this is something that's providing you money and food on the table for your family, I would never tell you to stop doing it. But what I will say is make sure that you're doing it using it in a way that's actually benefiting your family, and you're not going on to answer one DM and then you go over to TikTok and you're using that for 15 minutes, and then you pick up your head and I don't know what just happened. Because that's more likely the scenario than I was using it for 15 minutes to accomplish things.
Very true. Now, in the case of current events, and what would you suggest the best practices are when you say you're using social media to just stay abreast as to what's going on, but then that you don't just fall down the rabbit hole of whatever it is that's happening? Because obviously, there's things that have happened in 2024 that can be jaw-dropping, just kind of, double take and that sort of thing. So in the case of staying informed, but not being overly consumed by current events or situations that could really be a trigger.
Mm-hmm.
How do you approach that?
That's a very good point. First of all, this might be the hardest month in American history to talk about that. But what I will say is a lot of us, news companies, social media algorithms all work to make us think that consuming more feels like we're actually doing something about a problem that we feel passionate about, right? We see a challenge in the world, whatever that challenge is, And we continue to consume, and it gives you the idea that you're part of some sort of change that's happening in the world. It's made us all a lot scarier of each other. If you look at statistics versus how much better we're living and how much kinder and more charitable we all are than we were, let's say, 20 years ago, right? Like we've almost completely eradicated poverty in the world. Like we are in, by all accounts in human history, probably the safest, easiest, most charitable time to ever live. Yet we're all scared of each other, and we all live in fear of each other. And so what I'll say is, if you're engaging with any kind of story, if they're providing factual information that is actually enhancing your view of the story or giving you a more rounded view of what it is, great, continue to read, that's fine. If it's just something that's either confirming your opinion or validating what you already feel or makes you feel like you're working towards something in some way and you're just down the rabbit hole, that's when you need to stop, right? You need to be really intentional about, okay, is this actually making my worldview better and making me a better person? Or am I just engaging in this because it's the most interesting month in politics in American history and I can't stop?
So would you say like maybe a level of sensationalism that either
Yeah,
is an
of course.
article or a video that could very well determine if it's more for catching your interest versus, going through fact checks or, points in the article that would be helpful to the consumer or the viewer who's watching?
Right? They say it bleeds, it leads, right? Like these companies all make money on making you scared and making you any sort of sensationalism, right? Anything that makes you sensationalize. Facebook is very well aware that you are going to continue and engage with news posts that make you angry. It's their business model. Frances Haugen, the Facebook whistleblower who came out about 4 years ago, basically said as much, right? That Facebook is intentionally making you angry because it knows that you will stay on the app. Because when you stay on the app, you look at more ads, and when you look at more ads, they make more money. Their business model is making you mad and keeping you on the app. Any major news organization, it's the same thing, right? The longer you stay watching TV, the higher their ratings are, the more ads you're going to watch.
So is there a favorite way that you cross check topics, and not necessarily like super hot topics, but maybe something that you either need to know, want to know, that's important to how you're moving in your life, and just are there certain ways that you cross check just to see if it's if it's true information or if it's information that's just trying to get you to do just that, hook you and make you stay?
Yeah. Number one, I always check both sides of the political aisle on anything opinion, right? Like, how are both sides feeling? Also try to expand that, right? Because both sides aren't exactly one side. It's one person on one side is not indicative of the whole thing, and one person on one side is not indicative of the whole thing either. The other thing is finding journalists that aren't engaging in that kind of sensationalism, being really intentional in what you're reading. Is like, is this person trying to invoke emotion out of me, or is this just a fact? Like, honestly, if I can find people who are not giving me opinions, I'm going to keep them and I'm going to follow them and I'm going to put them in my pocket of people I'm going to visit later when things are happening. And so it's really thinking about the media personalities that you're engaging with, especially in this fragmented ecosystem that we all live in now, right? No one's really tuning into CNN or Fox or anything anymore. If you look at the viewership, right, it's maybe 200,000 people a night. So most people are getting their news from social media. And so it's being really intentional about looking at the post and seeing what kind of emotion they're trying to draw out of you.
And so, you bring up a really good point, that just checking both sides just to see what the information, what that crosses over. The other thing too, that what's been helping me these days is just I already set the parameters of having those conversations, just off record conversations with people who I interact with. And that if it's emotionally charged, I already know, okay, we may not be able to be as productive as we in our conversations. And so now that's for me, I'm able to discern if this is something I want to engage in and just interact with, a concern that's maybe just in the news today or not. And so is that something that you do, that if you engage with somebody, if you know that they're charged, that it's already off the table to talk about?
Yeah, I have a lot of friends I will never speak about news or political issues with ever, because it's just people get dogmatic about anything. It's human nature, right? Whether it's religion or your political aisle or whatever it is, right? People end up taking things and they become part of their identity, and they're not ideas, right? An idea can be broken up. I know I'm wrong 80% of the time, and I interact with the world as such, right? Socrates said, like, it's the mark of an educated man to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it, right? And so I just assume I'm wrong, and I want the world to prove me wrong. Right. Most people are not like that. I would say 80% of the people you're probably going to interact with on it. None of your watchers, obviously, they're all wonderful people who are smart and educated and are never offended by anything from any political aisle. But what I will say is yeah, you just have to pick and choose who you're gonna talk with, and find people in your life who are going to be intentional about, like, let's actually push each other to see if we actually believe what we believe.
Absolutely. And so, circling around to your input and what you bring to the table, I want to talk about your book, The Real Confident You. And so, can you tell me a little bit about the backstory behind your decision to write the book? What really propelled you? What was that little bit where you knew that this was your go-to, and set up the scene for how this book came to be?
Yeah, so after I wrote that article that went viral, kind of detailing my own story in 2020 about my childhood that culminated in me ending up trying to attempt to take my own life, and then kind of the journey of becoming a happy, successful person in the years following. What I left out of that story is kind of the how, right? How did I get better? And luckily, hundreds of people had reached out to me to figure out that how. Right. And so over and over again, I was having these conversations with people of little individual things that they could change in their life. And they were coming back to me 3-4 weeks later, like, I feel amazing. And then they would come back 2 years later, and it's like, I'm now in my MBA program, or I finally went to college, or I finally bought that new car because I figured out what I want to do with my career. And now I have money in the bank and my wife's happy. And all those individual things, people started coming back to me, that the things that worked for me were working for them. And so I wanted to share this information with as many people as possible, especially for people with people in the younger, with parents, with kids in the younger generation, and with people in the younger generation. But really, because of the capture of social media, everything that I say works for pretty much everybody, of how I got better and what are those individual things I did, that kind of constellation of things I did to get better. I wanted to lay that out in a self-help way that wasn't the typical, I'm your guru, I'm going to tell you everything that's right and wrong with the world. I wanted to do it in a vulnerable way where I show you the mistakes that I made, the mistakes that I still continue to make, and how I got better.
What is the most powerful chapter that you have heard impacted people the most, or your readers so far? Because obviously the book is available on Amazon, but what has been the one chapter that has had the biggest impact for readers?
Yeah, so towards the end, in the beginning of the book, it's a lot more tactics, and tools and basic conversations about food and kind of just the things that we're putting into our body. Later in the book, we really start talking a little bit more heady about kind of your ego and how you're interacting with the world. And there's a chapter called "Be Comfortable Being Uncomfortable," that I feel like was the chapter that I was born to write, given that I had a military dad, and that was basically the MO of my house growing up. And what the chapter does is it takes kind of that hard-nosed approach of, how do you actually look in the mirror and self-evaluate without beating yourself up? How do I take an actual stock of who I am, what's good about me, also what's negative about me, and what do I need to work on, but being okay with that, and working on those things in a way that's productive, and you can still stay proud of the things that you're already proud of.
And, when it comes to getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, why is that such a hard phrase for so many people to embrace?
Because most people think they're already uncomfortable. It's just a fact. You, in your line of work, you know this very, very well, right? There's a lot of people who think life is already hard enough. Why am I going to go to the gym? They think life is very uncomfortable. Why would I expose myself to more discomfort? I think it's a hard thing for people to do because we're basically trained from a young age. And I think it's a very insidious thing about the world in which we live in, where we look for quick fixes to very complex problems. And so it's actually the opposite of what's cool in the social media world in the modern age, right? To do something hard and that's going to take a long time to fix something that you think you could fix with a pill. And like we talked about the stimulation problem early on in our conversation, I wish I had the magical destimulation pill for you. I'd be selling that on Amazon right now and not this book, because this book takes a lot longer to read, right? But I think a lot of people have a really hard time grappling with the fact that, yes, what you're going through is difficult, but if you did something different that was also difficult, then you will be comfortable. I think that's a hard thing for people to grasp their mind around if they're not constantly exposed to it. And people are scared of failing. I think that's the other big part of it. People are really, really scared of failing.
And of course, failure doesn't feel good at all.
Yeah.
And we, and I do want to continue diving into this because we have more to talk about. First, we're going to take a commercial break. Stay put. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Introducing Launchpad, the perfect partner to help you launch your dream project to the world. We know that time is of the essence, and we're here to help you make the most of it. With Launchpad, you'll get access to the most advanced digital tools and strategies to take your idea from a mere concept to a fully fledged success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a seasoned pro, we have everything you need to make your mark in the world. Launchpad, your ultimate launch partner.
We can take our own health into our own hands. Okay, so we'll kind of expand on that. So I take a lot of vitamins every day. Long before I started this business, my wife has had me taking my vitamin C, my B complexes, amino acids every single solitary day, and I still do, even though I still do IVs as well. But when you take vitamins orally, you get 15 to 20% of them. Some people get less because they have autoimmune issues. Some people have a lot of inflammation issues, whatever the case may be, so they don't get the absorption that they need to be getting. So they don't get their immune system built up. Doing the mobile IVs, I'm able to take your immune system, I'm able to naturally boost it.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Of course, you know that we cover all things physical strength, the emotional resilience, and the mental mastery. The mental mastery is our topic of discussion today, having that positive mental health. My guest today, Pat Broe, we were spending some quality time with him, author of the book, The Real Confident You. And Pat, before the break, you were diving into, different components of just how our perception of really being able to grow. And you gave some really fantastic examples. And you talk about how your book really opens up as to getting uncomfortable being comfortable with getting uncomfortable. And so I'm curious, you demonstrate a lot of resilience, and I love just how you reflect on your experience including radio hosting and also business consulting. So I'm curious, what pieces or components of that area of your life have added to your advocacy for positive mental health?
Yeah, I think, and before the break too, we were just getting into kind of the conversation of fear of failure, which I think goes right into this conversation. So when I took my first job out of college, much like everybody in their everyday life, I had no idea what I was doing. So I was really lucky and really fortunate. I had some professors that really invested in me. And I had this job at a top 5 hardest jobs to get out of college, according to Forbes magazine. Basically, you were advising C-suite executives. But in order to do that, you had to sell them on your services. And so you're given a book, you're handed a book. And I was done this, by the way, this was during 2020. So this was during COVID. So I was emailed a book that I saw on my second screen, and you better start calling. And I picked up the phone and started dialing. And if you thought getting rejected from the high school prom was bad, I promise an executive yelling at you and then the next 20 doing it for calling them is significantly worse, especially when all of their stocks are on the floor during the middle of a pandemic. But what that taught me was, in every single at bat, I failed a lot. I got better, and I got inches better, and then I got feet better, and then I got miles better. And then by the middle of that year, I was the rookie of the year in the company. And by the end of the year, I'd had the best year that team had ever had. Right. And it's just because of my ability and my feeling that if I failed, I would learn and I would get better.
So then equating that to mental health, then you got to the point where it didn't bother you.
Right.
You got to the point where you were able to disconnect from the outcome of giving it, of giving it your all to make that connection, to make the sales, to make to network. And then even though the answer was a no, you still kept going. So the decision was already made. And then how do you equate that to teaching others about having a positive mental health?
So I think if someone right now wants to do something or wants to make a change, but they're scared of it, right? I think a lot of us are scared to make changes in our lives because we've spent our whole life with this person already. And these are the feelings we know and we feel comfortable with them, even if they're the worst feelings possible, right? Even if it's a hatred of yourself, I know, at least I know the hatred of myself. So moving into something else seems so foreign and so challenging. And so for an individual right now, and also, by the way, being scared of failure is a completely normal thing, right? Because our brains have evolved in a world where if you are a hunter-gatherer and you failed, the lion ate you, right? Like if I went out with a spear and I failed on the hunt, that meant I was dead, right? So it's completely wired into our brains to be scared of failure, right? The people who failed, who are our forefathers who failed a lot, aren't in our genetic lineage because they died, right? The people who were the most scared and failed a lot and didn't fail a lot ended up becoming us. And so it's completely okay. What I will say is you have to build that resistance to it, right? It starts with little steps of saying, whatever happens, happens, being intentional about there is going to be a risk. I am going to fail at whatever this is, and accepting that that's a good thing. The moment that you accept that failure is a good thing and not a bad thing, right? NASA calls it a growth opportunity. They don't call it failure for a very specific reason. They don't say the word failure at all at NASA because all you can do is grow.
And do you think that sometimes the perception of failure, it just really trips so very many people? And here's what I mean by that. So I perceive it as a difference between, like, if I failed at doing something, I failed in that particular action, but I'm not a failure. So as me, as the, like, my identity, just maybe that attempt, I had failed. So then do you think that we just mix it up as a society? Do you think that we just interpret it and then internalize it in a really, in a way that doesn't serve us?
Yeah, I think it's partially that, and it's partially that if I fail, all of my friends aren't going to like me, right? It's if I fail, everybody's going to judge me because I'm the one that took a leap and it didn't work out. Really, as it plays out in our lives, it doesn't normally happen like that, right? And I think we have to teach ourselves that. And be kinder to ourselves, and also surround ourselves with people that are going to support us taking those jumps in life that we need to make. The favorite line I wrote in the book is, you're going to lose a lot of people on the way to the real confident you, right? There's going to be a lot of people in your life that you just need to start to push out because they're not supportive of whatever journey you're on. And they're actually bringing you down with them. And so our perception of how other people are going to see us fail or not succeed often limits us from being able to reach our truest potential and live the best life we possibly can.
So then cleaning house and identifying what's serving, what's not, the people around you, so that actually fuels positive mental health. Would you say that that's something that you find that that tends to go hand in hand?
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important things you can do. I think oftentimes if you look around at the people, it's funny. If you look at college coaches, they'll tell you, if you look at if you look at the people the kid's hanging around in high school, I'll tell you what kind of kid he's going to be in college, right? And I'll tell you if that kid's going to make the NFL or not, or the WNBA or whatever it is, because it's true. Who you surround yourself with is often who you become. And so taking real stock and evaluation of, are my friends actually providing value in my life, is, I think, one of the most important early on steps that you can take in building a better and happier life for yourself.
So before we go to our next break, how would you equate using those tactics in the business world, where you are in a position where, you're connecting with others, you've got coworkers and responsibilities that are connected. You can't necessarily run away from people who you have to interact with based on your line of work.
Yeah.
How does that equate to that?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is there are people who are in your network and there are people who are providing value to your network. And I know I've used the word providing value maybe 100 times today, but it's because I deeply believe in it. But there are people that you actually let in to your circle, right? There are people in your Microsoft Teams or on Instagram today who you talk to and go to for advice, or people that you're going to bounce ideas off of or bring to a workshop session. Those are the people who are actually positive and you think align with your values. The people who you feel like are dragging you down, don't stop working with them. Right? You can't stop working with them. Right? I don't think your HR department will like that very much. Or if you're your own business owner and there are people making money for you, you have to work with them. But what I will say is that does not mean you have to engage with the things that are bringing you down.
So then just obviously taking care of business, but being selective with what that interaction looks like within the parameters of having to interact with them.
Exactly.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. We've been spending quality time with our guest today, Pat Broe. He's the author of the book, The Real Confident You. And Pat, where can we find you in the virtual space?
A couple really easy places to find me. First place is on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Patrick Broe. You can also find me on Instagram at Pat Broe. Those are the two main ways to find me. And then you can find my book, The Real Confident You. It's available on Amazon right now in Kindle, paperback, and hardback. And I will say that we've made the Kindle version 99 cents on purpose because we don't think that this information should be price limited to anybody. We think this information should be basically free. I don't want to gatekeep this from anybody. But if you do feel like supporting a little bit more, the paperback and hardback versions are great. And that's how I prefer to read as well.
How do you maintain your mental health while helping others?
I would say the number one thing is keeping things in my life that are going to be energy givers, not energy takers, right? So I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning. I go to the gym. I have to do that. That's just something that I have to do. It makes me a happier, gentler, kinder person to the people around me and to myself. So I would say for anybody else, it's picking out those activities in your life that are must-haves that provide energy and provide value to your life. Whether that's making sure that you get home at night and have dinner with your kids every single night, then make sure that that's a priority and be 100% attentive when you're in that moment, right? And don't lie to yourself and say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. Do it today and do it every single day. And do it over time. And if that thing is giving you value, you'll get 52. If you're missing it once a week, you'll get 52x the amount of value you're getting in your life right now.
And what do you have going on for the remainder of 2024? We're going into 2025.
I've got some speaking engagements, a bunch of stuff that'll be released out on my Instagram pretty soon here. I'm a little close to the vest right now. I'm going on every single TV show and podcast on planet Earth I can find right now. And the publicist is calling. And yeah, I'm going to just spreading the word right now.
So in regards to speaking, can we look to see you in different spaces, that outreach of getting the word out? What are some different industries and organizations that you find that is likely lined up in the future?
Yeah, so I'm working with a lot of youth action organizations right now. Additionally, I think in the business world, this context, the things that I talk about are really important. Just with the overstimulation problem, I talk about a lot. I think anybody here who's setting up their own business knows that it's very easy to get off the deep end of stress, and how do you actually manage that? Those two audiences have really found some great strides in.
And before we run out of time, what would you say to the viewer who's watching, who is really struggling with mental health and trying to keep up with our fast-paced world and all that's in it?
The first thing I would do is say, I want you to breathe. Okay. I want you to take a second. I want you to breathe in for 4 seconds. I want you to hold your breath for 4 seconds. I want you to breathe out for 4 seconds. And then I want you to hold your breath again for 4 seconds. I'll repeat that. Everybody knows what box breathing is, but I'm going to say it again. You're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. You're going to hold for 4 seconds. You're going to breathe out for 4 seconds. And then you're going to breathe in. Then you're going to exhale again for 4 seconds. And I want you to set a timer on your phone for 3 minutes. And I just want you to do nothing. I don't want you to think of anything else. I want you to set an intention, write it down, and say, what do I want to get out of this time? And then when you lift your eyes, I want you to write down, how am I feeling now? And however you're feeling in that moment afterwards is how you should feel all the time. And you can always have that. That is yours to keep. And you can do that whenever you want. The other thing that I would say is if you actually feel that you need serious help, please do not hesitate to call and ask for help. The people around you love you very, very much. Whether they're your friends or your actual blood family, there are people in your life that you can call right now. As well as there's many mental health resources that you can reach out to that are free right now on the internet that I would say take a call at this moment if you need to.
Pat Broe, this has been such an insightful conversation, just hitting on so many different areas in terms of the business world and then just how we can apply this in terms of our own private world. Author of the book, The Real Confident You. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful. Thank you.
And for all our viewers, of course, you can find us on the web. Our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can certainly sign up for our newsletter. You can email us with any show episode ideas that you would love for us to cover. In addition to that, if it's quicker for you, upper left-hand corner of our screen, you will find our QR code. And of course, quick shout out to all our sponsors. And then you can always find us on E360 each week on the Achieve TV channel, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern every week. That is all the time that we have. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We will see you soon.